AI companies have been getting called out by independent music makers for taking their content without their permission. Crazy, right? Well, today I'm going to be reacting to this video by a top music attorney, going over some of the issues that some of the AI companies have been experiencing and what's currently happening in the landscape. If you're a music maker, this is information that you definitely don't want to skip over because you're going to need it, especially if you're releasing music as an artist, producer, or songwriter. So without further ado, let's get into it.
The problem with AI companies starting fresh. I was lucky enough to do a guest column for Music Business Worldwide, and I thought I would react to myself, but more importantly, just share on this very important piece of like where we're at right now with the shift in the music business that is happening and this conversation about walled gardens and Udio and Suno and the changes that they're making. I'm really curious what you guys think, but this is what I had to say. The music industry keeps dancing around an uncomfortable question: whether AI companies using artist music without permission is really that bad, or just an awkward step before everyone signs deals and moves on. You know, we've been talking about how with the majors, you know, a couple of them signed deals with Udio, and then Warner was the one that signed with Suno, and then we saw Merlin, the network that represents independent record labels. They did a deal with Udio. So it's just like, well, we see everyone's just kind of settling and moving on. So is the perspective that everyone just needs to get cut in, cut me a check, and then we're good to go? Well, obviously, on behalf of independent artists, which is actually what we say next. So the conversation has shifted from they stole millions of songs from the internet illegally to, hey, we can all just make money together. Well, at least for the major labels, an unfortunate truth is that a large portion of these songs belong to independent artists who were never asked for permission, offered compensation, or even are being included in the Let's Start Fresh AI campaigns today.
You know, that's interesting. And this was really my assumption of what was going to happen, especially in the beginning when I started to see some of the companies push back with lawsuits against some of these AI platforms. I felt like, okay, this is just kind of the first step until they start working together, signing deals, and starting to consolidate power. And the reason I was able to see this is somewhat reminded me in the earlier years when we started to have streaming platforms like LimeWire, Napster, Kazaa, those type of platforms where they were playing in their tricky intellectual property infringement world, and companies were really going after people, even individuals in certain situations. And of course, now we have platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, which are, you know, is doing the same thing as streaming the music, but everybody is in on the deal. Everyone is in on the take. And that's the same thing that I'm seeing here with AI. And it looks like my predictions were relatively accurate. And as time goes on, things start to move forward and they start to shake hands and create these deals. I definitely see more power starting to consolidate and them just taking stuff without permission. But let's get back into the video.
Whether independent artists can truly get justice through our class action lawsuit, which my law firm is leading, remains to be seen. But here we nonetheless are, and the conversation has officially shifted to how AI should operate moving forward. All right, so this is where we get into the conversation about walled gardens, right? Because it's like, well, is this the solution? You know, if Udio has moved towards this, everything stays on the platform kind of structure, we can better protect the stuff that is used in the training data, right? The intellectual property, the copyrights, all that good stuff. And so that's kind of, you know, what we have seen with Universal, with Warner doing the walled garden deal with Udio. But Suno's not going to play ball. It refuses to go with the walled garden thing, and it's doing the open studio method instead. So think of it like a video game. You can log into the platform, create music inside the system, experiment with sounds, maybe share tracks with other users, but you can't take it off the AI platform. Warner, Universal, Merlin all signed up for this structure when they settled with Udio. The goal is properly licensed AI models going forward. That's what we hear, that's what we can assume, right? But here's where things get complicated. We do not actually know what other music is still being included in these licensing pools. Independent artists certainly have not been consulted. Meanwhile, Warner stands as the only major that has settled with Suno, which wholly rejects the walled garden approach. Warner appears comfortable allowing its catalog to exist in both worlds, AI platforms and wherever users want to share their AI songs. This raises a pretty uncomfortable question. Is this Start Fresh campaign really about protecting music?
All right, so yeah, once again, this is still reminding me of the immersion of the streaming era where people were downloading different files off of platforms like Kazaa and LimeWire and trading albums and things like that because, things weren't really walled off. Now, if you want to hear music on Spotify, if you want to hear it on Pandora, if you want to hear it on Apple Music, then you need to open up the app and actually listen to the music there. I don't think there's really people getting bootleg albums and just sharing it with their friends when they're already paying for a subscription and when they could just get it for like less than the price of Chick-fil-A or, whatever. So I think Suno, in my opinion, is eventually going to follow suit. They're going to enter some type of negotiation where the value of whatever licensing deal that they engage in is going to be worth creating a walled garden. So I think that that's what's going to happen because these companies don't want their stuff just loose and all over the place. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
And that's my big question. I just go like, what are we doing here? I mean, is this going to be our moment in history where all these companies, they were like, we're competing or whatever their excuses. We had to rush. We had to just steal everyone's stuff because we needed to be first to market. I mean, this is what we've said in our complaints, and we're arguing against Suno this month, for example. And we quoted the representatives of Suno, which were like, everyone was doing it. We just did what everyone was doing. I'm like, what kind of defense is that? So is this about starting fresh, or is this just about protecting the largest catalogs, right? The biggest label music, while everyone else's works remain part of the unauthorized training data? Because I keep asking, and you should ask this as well. Every time we hear about we licensed someone's music, you go, okay, what about the rest of the songs that are still in the training data? And so again, for you AI users, what about the protection for you guys, for the AI outputs that are being generated if there's unauthorized music in the training data set?
Just to jump in right here, this really gets me thinking about even the origins of hip hop music. So this might sound like I'm deviating, but I'm not. Let me go ahead and bring it home. So whenever we're talking about lifting kicks and snares and different musical phrases to create the genre that so many of us enjoy, there were so many different intellectual property issues, so many copyright issues, recording artists getting sued and having their albums put into jeopardy due to the fact that they were infringing on other people's copyright. But now here we are in this modern era, and these larger companies are taking pieces of other people's intellectual property and creating something new based off of other people's copyrighted material. And then they're, of course, going through some litigation, but at the same time, it just doesn't quite feel the same. It don't quite feel as punitive and as harsh. As Finesse Two Times once said, it's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Additional concerns come up regarding whether the major label artists will actually be able to say no to participating in AI training. So for our clients who are signed to major labels, boy, can I tell you, on the back end with how this works, because it's like if Universal does a deal and they're like, yeah, our artists are going to opt in, what about their voices? What about their likeness? And what about their ability to say no if they don't want to be a part of this? So implementing the structures, it's not going to erase original theft. Notably, there's a new group caught in the middle, which are the AI users. Most people using AI music tools reasonably assume the legal risks have already been figured out. But if you read the terms of service on many of these platforms, the users are the ones carrying the risk. AI users are often required to indemnify the company if an AI-generated track leads to a copyright claim. In other words, if an AI song sounds too much like a real artist and someone gets sued, the user may be the one responsible, not the AI company. And please listen when I get to this part. I think this is the best part of the whole thing. Udio even shockingly said in one court filing that its AI users are legally responsible for any alleged infringing AI songs, not Udio. I've been sitting on that one for a while. I was just so shocked to have Udio literally trying to fight us, trying to defend, and goes, you know what? If there's infringing copyright outputs, We didn't do it. Our users did it.
For some of the videos that I see some of the younger producers doing when they're doing live stream cookups and things like that, I see a lot of them just jumping right into Suno and just chopping up samples and just going in there just to find something that sounds cool and that sounds unique. And that's a part of the natural creative mind, the curiosity of there's this tool that I could just click on to get something that just inspires me to make something creative. And that kind of once again gets back to like the origins of hip hop, where you're playing a record and you just hear something and you're just like, man, that sounds crazy. Let me grab that and put it into my SP1200 or my MPC and just create something. But in that process, with these tools that are created that helps us to be more expressive and artistic, there's still that intellectual property aspect that I don't think too many of the end users, like the producers, the beat makers, are really thinking about. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
The current structure of the AI music ecosystem looks something like this. Artists may have had their music used without permission to train AI. Users experimenting with AI tools may carry the legal exposure if something goes wrong. And the AI companies, the ones that built the AI models off artists for free in the first place, are comfortably protected in the middle. AI music is not going away. That much is clear. But the current debate about walled gardens is missing the real issue, because before the industry decides what the future should look like, there's still a very obvious question hanging in the air. If the foundation of these AI companies is mass piracy and theft, can AI companies really just start fresh and pretend that part never happened?
Wow, these are very clear and poignant questions to ask, especially where we're at as a musical community when it comes to AI. It's important to have this information out there. Also, one type of thinking that I've noticed, and mostly in like the music production spaces, is it's like there's a certain type of self-blame that happens. I'm not quite sure if younger producers and songwriters have gotten taken advantage of legally and they kind of feel like they deserved it because they didn't know much about anything. I think that type of thinking can extend from just, label people to also larger corporations such as these AI platforms. So giving somebody with quote unquote clout a pass to take advantage of your intellectual property, that can once again extend to a major corporation where you can almost feel like you're supposed to get taken advantage of because you're creative. Maybe I'm reaching. It gets a little weird to me personally. You ain't finna take my shit. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. How do you feel about where AI is creatively and where it is legally as far as just training off of independent music creators, materials without permission? What do you think about the two areas? I like the creative side. I've heard some creative things that definitely are sounding better and better, more convincing. Let me know your opinion in the comments. I'll be glad to check it out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace. Wait, before you go, make sure you go to DesmondASounds.com, where you can get free FL Studio patcher plugins, free loops, free guides, everything you need to level up your music production. Once again, go to DesmondASounds.com or click the link in the description. Go there now and totally transform your music production.